If you're a pop culture junkie who loves TV, film, music, comedy, and other really important stuff, then you've come to the right place. Get ready and settle in for Classic Conversations, the best pop culture interviews in the world. That's right, we circled the globe so you don't have to. If you're ready to be the king of the water cooler, then you're ready for Classic Conversations with your host, Jeff Dwoskin.
All right, Penny, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. You get the show going each and every week, and this week was no exception. Welcome, everybody, to episode 282 of Classic Conversations. As always, I am your host, Jeff Dwoskin. Great to have you back for what's sure to be a tickling good episode with my guest, comedian Glen Tickle. We're talking about his Dry Bar special, which is over 1.1 million views. His brand new comedy special, Glen Tickle Against the World Crime League. So much goodness coming up in just a few seconds. In these few seconds, just want to make sure you did not miss my conversation with Jay Towers, co-host of the Cape Wonder Superman podcast. We talked Christopher Reeve's Superman, super fun chat. Do not miss that. But right now, do not miss my conversation with a comedian that's just taking comedy by storm. We're talking about Jurassic Park, his obsession with adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension, his brand new special, using comedy to cope with grief. So much coming up with Glen Tickle right now. All right, everyone, I'm excited to introduce you to my next guest. He is definitely not from Pennsylvania. You may have seen him on the Dry Bar special where he can boast 1.1 million downloads and counting. You may have heard him on SiriusXM, seen him on Amazon Prime, the Travel Channel, Cozy TV. I don't even know what that one is, but it's impressive as hell. He's a competitive Dr. Mario player. He's got a new special out called Glen Tickle Against the World Crime League, available on YouTube. Welcome to the show, Glen Tickle.
Thank you for having me. Now, most people aren't familiar with Cozy TV, but I genuinely would have assumed that you would be, because it's all like reruns of old NBC shows.
Oh.
Where it's like, they did a comedy contest years ago. Be like 4 hours of Andy Griffith reruns. Then they filmed a set of mine at a comedy festival. They'd play that and then just more Andy Griffith reruns, but no real explanation for why I was interrupting the Andy Griffith marathon.
You know, I'll have to check it out. I have like Tubi and Freebie, like all those.
Yeah.
And like, if I do one episode of, like I had Kathy Garver on, Sissy from Family Ties, so I was watching not Family Ties, Kathy Garver from Family Affair. So yeah. I watched some Family Affair episodes, and now it just thinks that's all I want to do. It's watch.
Yeah, I have that problem with kids stuff. It like any algorithm-based streaming service is ruined for me because it's just like, oh, do you want to watch weird sci-fi from the 80s, but then also a bunch of My Little Pony for some reason? Like we haven't got you paid. And you would think that they would like it would somehow know, like, all right, well, this is for a 5-year-old. But I do also watch like I guess a lot of old cartoons and stuff. So I don't know. Music recommendation doesn't work because it like every week I use Apple Music and it makes a little playlist of like songs it thinks are my favorite songs, but it is like a pretty good mix of songs I do actually like, a ton of like jazz and bebop, which I put on in the background when I'm doing stuff, and then it'll just be like songs from Adventure Time or whatever music my children like to listen to. And it's like, well, this doesn't work together. Like you got to break this up into 3 lists.
That's really funny. I remember when my first child was born and I bought a huge big screen TV, like 55 inches, but this was big, but it wasn't like the flat ones now. It was because I'm going back a couple decades. So it was like huge and deep and you know what I mean? It was like, and I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then all it was used for was Elmo and Sesame Street or Baby Einstein.
It was a lot easier with when my first daughter was born. She's 10 now. We only showed her the Muppets. We made the decision. We're like, she's going to eventually latch onto something and want to just watch that thing. So let's pick a thing that she'll probably like, but also we like. And it worked for a while. She just thought the TV was a machine that showed you Muppets, and it's great. But we can't do that with the younger one because now we have both. So she's found other shows. Once she figured out how the remote works, she's showing them to her little sister. It's like I can't just have the Muppet movie on a loop for 3 days,
right?
Like the golden age.
You can control more the first one, but then the second one wants to do what the first one is doing, and the first one's already moved on from some of those shows. So then they kind of miss that, and they kind of glob on to the whatever the older sibling is doing at that time.
Yeah. Now they're both just pretty into weird YouTube videos that they found.
I know. It's like a whole different world. Once they my kids never had a TV in their room because they just had screens.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, it was like the biggest deal in the world when I had a TV in my room. That was like
it was. I got one after. That's what I used the money from First Communion for. I bought I think it was a 13-inch TV, and it was color. My older brother and I shared a room, and we had a TV in the room, but it was black and white. So we would like hook the Nintendo would be hooked up to that. And so when I got Dr. Mario came out in 1990, I was still playing Nintendo on a black and white TV, but it's a color-based game. So we would like set it up in the living room on the color TV sometimes, but I would try to play it black and white. And I think that's why I've gotten very, very good at just that one game. Like I'm not good at other video games, just that one.
I was good at Atari 2600.
I had one of those. Yeah.
That was my jam.
I don't remember being very good at any games. There was a Atari and arcade game called Bosconian that I don't ever remember until college. A roommate had, it was like a little arcade stick you'd plug into the TV with like the RCA cables, and it had Pac-Man and a couple other games. My best friend and I would competitively play this spaceship shooter game, Bosconian, that we had never heard of. And we got so competitive that we had to come to an agreement. We're like, we can't do this. This is taking up too much time, because we got so good at it. Like each person's turn would be like 3 hours long. It's like, we have to like write papers and stuff. We're in college. This is ruining our lives. This game we had never heard of for the past 35 years. We got to move on.
It's so fun.
I haven't touched it since, but it's out there somewhere.
So Glenn, comedy is your thing. When did you know you were funny? When did you decide to become a comedian? I know you were a teacher at one point.
Yeah, I worked as a sub for a long time. I've always liked comedy. Like my grandparents had a couple episodes of The Muppet Show on tape. So when I would go to their house, like that's what I would want to do. I would like watch. They had the Steve Martin episode, the Star Wars episode, and like a couple of other ones. I just watched those two over and over again. And even with that, like I think it was 27 when I started comedy, because that's when I realized it's like, oh, you can just go do it. I did one open mic in college that went badly because like I didn't really understand that you're supposed to prepare. Like I think what is still kind of a common misconception for people, where it's like, oh, you just go up and talk. And it's like, well, no, there's actually quite a bit more to it than that. But yeah, it was a couple years out of college, and I went to school for film, wasn't getting hired to write things, saw that stand-ups were, and it's like, oh, well, I don't mind standing in front of people. I love attention. I know how jokes work. Let me just go do that until I get a writing job. And I mean, it worked. I've had various writing jobs over the years, but almost immediately it's like, oh, this is way better, actually. Like, I like this a lot more. Because I've done movies and stuff where, you write a script for something. It can be years before you find out if an audience likes it. But I mean, you could be standing on stage, have a thought, say it in the moment, and just immediately find out if people like it. And that immediacy is hard to beat for someone with ADD who loves attention from strangers. So I've stuck with it since then.
That's awesome. And, I listened to your Dry Bar special. You're really, really good. You're very, very
thank
funny.
you. I appreciate it.
And I mean that because it's hard sometimes just to listen to something recorded. I really enjoy live comedy. I think there's something about the energy.
I was listening to one of your other episodes and you said that. I think I enjoy watching live comedy more maybe than watching like recorded, but I love having a little project to work on, like I've been working on the new special since April, and it's like it gives me something to do during the day where I don't feel like I'm just sitting around. It's like, no, I have a project. I have to open Final Cut and get some work done. I love it. Like I love making recorded comedy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's something about it. And I think it's because I've been in so many shows and I know the energy that you give out, you get back. So I think when I watch it as a comedian, I know that's part of that's missing from the experience. And so when I can thoroughly enjoy something, then I find that extremely impressive.
I do think bad live comedy is way worse than bad recorded comedy.
Yeah, but you're still experiencing it. There's still, yeah.
The ceiling versus floor on that is
For sure. So I'm not knocking recorded comedy. I'm just saying that I think there's an energy.
No, you've been very clear that you hate it.
There's a certain energy. You know, it'd be like it's a difference if
every comedy album should get thrown into a river. That's what you said. I heard it. It's on the record.
It's on there.
Which should also get thrown in a river.
If you were to watch, like I love Billy Joel. So if I were to watch the recording of Billy Joel, there's not the same level of enjoyment as if I were at the concert watching Billy Joel.
Right.
My point was I thoroughly enjoy listening to you and really found myself laughing a lot. So I was saying, like, you transcended that. That was gonna be my point.
I appreciate it. I mean, the music example, people make fun of me a lot because I'm not a big music guy. And I have friends who were in bands and stuff in college, and I would go see them. And I'm like, I could just listen to the CD. Like I love being on stage in a crowded room where everyone's looking, but like being just in the audience isn't. And live music, like the sound, I don't think anyone's ever figured out the correct volume for live music. It's always too loud. I think like comedy, it's easy to adjust because it's just one person talking to a microphone usually, but I don't know. It's too loud. I'm too old, to quote Airheads.
How many hours of material do you have? I mean, like workable, usable, because you've had multiple specials that you've done.
A few, I would say. There's some overlap between my first album and the Dry Bar special, because Dry Bar, like the only thing they care about is it just has to be clean to their standards. When I submitted, I just sent them that album. It's like, here's an hour of clean comedy. Can I come tell jokes in Utah? And the application process is apparently more rigorous now, because I've told that to a couple of people and they're like, oh no, it was like back and forth for a while before they approved the set. I was like, oh, they didn't ask me once what jokes I was going to tell. I had to run a couple by them because I was like, I think it's clean, but like, is it like the joke about naming my daughter Tess? I was like, is this okay? And it was right before the show. I like dry ran it for the producer backstage, and she's like, well, do it for the first show. And if the audience doesn't like it, don't do it for the second show. Like, that's how you'll know. And it's like, I'd really rather you just thumbs up or thumbs down this joke, but played surprisingly well. I mean, there's a longer version of that joke that isn't quite as clean because it's fun to do live because all the tags get like each one's a little grosser because it gets like more anatomy specific, and it's fun to do live because you can feel out with the audience like, where should I bail on this one? And very rarely do I get to like the last part of it, because it's usually like once I feel like half the audience is like pushing back, I will just move on to the next joke. But I mean, to your point about live versus recorded, like I do like that you can adjust things on the fly in a live performance in a way that, despite my best efforts over the past couple of months, you can't change that much stuff about a recorded set. It's been a lot of like trying to move jokes around, just like fix the order, or there's a weird sound got on the recording from the first show that I'm hoping isn't on the second, and then I'm trying to work that in seamlessly. But when you're doing it live, like that is one of the more enjoyable parts of it for me, to be like, I got to figure out what these people like, and then based off of the material I have, what can I do to entertain them? Because I've never been one of those guys who's like, oh, you should be able to crush in any room. Like, I'm like, I don't want to actually. Like, I want to go to different rooms and find the people who like what I want to do anyway, which is probably a slower way to do it and like accumulate an audience. But I feel like it's worth the extra effort of being like, if I'm in a room with an audience and I find out, oh, these people are all insanely racist, I'm not going to start doing racist jokes to entertain them. An extreme example, but I'm like, I just want to talk about like Jurassic Park and my kids, which I understand. You know, some people don't have children and for some reason have never seen Jurassic Park. So I have to figure out like, well, how do I make this relatable to people who don't have the exact experience that I'm trying to talk about? Because a lot of my material is just stories of things from my life where it's like, well, yeah, these people weren't there when I took my daughter hiking and she pointed out all the dead animals in a room full of taxidermied animals. But it's still like the job of it is like, well, how do I make this story entertaining for at least most people? I'm not trying to necessarily get everybody. I just need enough.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. I get it.
Yeah.
But wait, what about Jurassic Park? I didn't have kids when I saw Jurassic Park.
No,
of course, I saw it opening 10. Weekend. So I mean,
yeah. I saw it a couple weeks after opening weekend because my mom's friend walked out when the kids are pinned by the T-Rex in the car. And she told my mom that she shouldn't let me see it because kids get eaten by a dinosaur. And I'm like, I had read the book. I was like a big nerd. And I was like, I was very like, she knew to warn my mother about this movie specifically because it's probably all I was talking about with my parents' friends for like 6 months. And she walked out. So she didn't see them get away from the T-Rex. Right. She just told my mom. And I'm like, I read the book. It would like, I know things are different in movies sometimes, but that would be a big change, honestly. Like those characters are pretty pivotal to the rest of the story. I don't think. And then when I found out that she walked out, I was like, no, I'm like, I don't want to ruin it for you. They get away from the T-Rex, Mom. It's going to be okay.
Plus, it's a Steven Spielberg film. What did you think?
Yeah.
He's not going to have like a dinosaur.
Like, Mom, it's the guy who made E.T. It's going to be fine.
I was obsessed with Michael Crichton and all his books around that time.
I was obsessed with Jurassic Park, and then I tried to get into the other ones, and I just couldn't.
I loved his books. The Jurassic Park is basically just a rework of Westworld.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he also wrote. He made the movie.
But that one didn't have dinosaurs in it, or at least not as many. I don't remember what.
Well, it didn't have it was the same idea. It was robots in a... Westworld is robots in a park.
Yeah, and then they
cause havoc. Yeah. And then this is dinosaurs in a park.
And then what the follow-up for it? I forget.
The Lost World?
No, for Westworld.
Oh,
there was like the
eventually became a TV show on HBO.
Yeah,
I know that.
But there was like another. I think there was a sequel to the movie. I think there was another Yul Brynner one, if I remember correctly. I might not. So who knows?
We'll have to dive into that separate.
Yeah,
that one I don't know. At one point, over 1 million views on your Dry Bar special. Now, 1 million views is amazing. How is that compared in the Dry Bar world?
I mean, there's some that have just way bigger numbers. There's like a couple that are like huge. And that's just from the YouTube upload that they did. Like, I don't see numbers of like views from their platform. So unless it is something like YouTube, or they put it on Facebook too, and like you can see the number of views there. It's like, oh, I know it's doing well. I know people are watching it. I've had people reach out. They find me after they see it and tell me they enjoyed it. So I'm like, I know people are watching it. Like, it was released, I think, July 2021. And then a couple weeks later, they put it up on YouTube. And then that's where like I could see that it was doing well, as opposed to before. I would just, sometimes they email you with like a breakdown of how it's doing, but without, I don't care like how much money it's making. I just want to know how many people have seen it. Like, that's the information I'm interested in. But it's wild because I think that's the most views any of my comedy has gotten. But I started using TikTok during the pandemic. One of the videos that I did about potty training my daughter got 3 million views.
Wow.
And then I have a joke about it on the new special about that being a wild thing that happened. So I wanted to post that clip to promote the new special. So I was like, oh, I should repost that potty training video so that people like find it easily. Then the repost of it got, I think it's up to 3.3 million views. I'm like, the point of the joke is that's too many views for this dumb video about potty training my kid. I just saw the same video hit 1 million on Facebook. I'm like, TikTok has ruined my perception of like what it means for a thing I post on the internet to do well. Because before that, if I put something up on YouTube and it gets like a couple thousand views, I'm over the moon. Like, I had a couple clips that did pretty well on like stand-up clips that did pretty well on YouTube. And then just like I edited the boat scene from Nosferatu to the Lonely Island's I'm on a Boat. And like that got, I think, 20,000 something views. It was like, this is incredible. And then, but I spent like 3 days making that edit. And then the 10 seconds I spent making a dumb potty training joke has gotten a cumulative 7 something million views. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, I've had clips that do well on YouTube too, like stand-up clips, but nothing approaching that level. I have like a few that have like a couple 100,000. So now I've been getting ready for the release of the new special. And it's like, all right, I need to like set a number in my head that means that it's going okay. It's obviously, if 200 people watch it, that's not enough people. Like, I'll feel bad. But then it's like, well, I can't set my goal at 1.1 million. Like, I don't have the following or marketing budget that Dry Bar has. So I'm like, I've never settled on an answer for this, but I'm like, it's between 200 and 1 million. Somewhere in there is a number that will satisfy me. I mean, there will never be enough attention, right? Like, you're a stand-up. I think you understand that impulse. But, you know, I want it to feel like it's time well spent the past couple of months, you know, recording and working on this thing. So hopefully we will get more than 200 and probably less than 1 million. It would be great if it beat it, but I don't know that that's a realistic expectation.
Well, I'm sure you'll fall somewhere between 200 and 1 million.
My parents will watch it 300 times just to pump the numbers up, I'm sure.
It's so funny. Sorry to interrupt my conversation with Glen Tickle, but we have to take a quick break. I want to thank everyone for their support of the sponsors. When you support the sponsors, you're supporting us here at Classic Conversations, and that's how we keep the lights on. And now back to my conversation with Glen Tickle. We're going to dive deep into how he prepares for a comedy special. How long does it take to prepare for each one of your specials? If you're going to do an hour, do you spend a year building that up?
Well, the first one, I was, I think, 6 or 7 years into comedy before I had been headlining a bit at that point. So I'm like, I have an hour, but having an hour of material versus like having an hour for a special is different. I was trying to get booked at more colleges, and one of them asked me to send them the hour that I would do. And I'm like, well, I don't have that recorded, so I'll do that. And if I'm going to do it, I'll do it right. I have a friend who is a sound recorder. I don't know his actual job title. He runs like a recording studio outside of Philly. So I'm like, I'll have him come record it so that it sounds nice. And then I ended up self-releasing it and starting a record label to do that. And so that was like 7 years of the hits from the beginning part of my career, of just stuff that I thought a college would want to hear so that I get booked. And then the next one took a couple of years. That one was Good Grief, which is a special that I put out after my brother died. And it's all material about like dealing with grief. That took a couple of years because it's like a tough topic to make jokes about. So it took a while. That came out the beginning of 2020. And it happened like a couple weeks after I recorded my first album in 2016. So like 3.5 years, I think. And then I ended up recording that one, I think it was like 2 weeks before the Dry Bar set. So it was like December 2019, an hour of very sad comedy, and then fly to Utah to do like regular comedy again. There was, like I said, there's stuff from the first album, but then it was also just, newer bits about my kids, joke about Jurassic Park that doesn't work on that special. Like if I had to pick like a real lull, it's that one. I feel vindicated because back when like Twitter was a thing people used, randomly Genesis Elijah, I think his name is. He's a rapper in the UK, just randomly tweeted at me. He's like, Glen Tickle's Jurassic Park joke is underappreciated. And I was like, hey, thank you, stranger I've never met.
The best jokes are underappreciated.
Yeah, I don't know if Utah didn't get it. You would think, because they found a lot of dinosaurs there, so there would probably be some interest, but it just falls completely flat to that audience.
They could have sweetened it.
Yeah. And then this last one is about 3 years too, just because there's a pandemic and I've been home. So like a lot of that time I wasn't actively touring. I did a lot of Zoom shows though. And that's not really the best way to develop material because there's like a weird internet delay and like people are muted. So it's like, if I'm trying to find out if a joke works, that half-second pause of like, well, did it bomb or is your internet slow is like really detrimental to the process. So for probably the first 2 years of the pandemic, it was like me mostly doing just basically the Dry Bar set and then a couple newer bits or sometimes older bits to fill out the show. And late 2021 was when I started like actually going out regularly again. So from there, it was probably about a year before I felt like it was ready. That's when I like called the venue that I recorded at to set a date. But then, I was changing it up to the day of like, what jokes do I want to include? Because once I got back out on the road and was doing more shows, I'm like, that's how I generate material basically.
Right.
So like I had a bunch of jokes. So it's like, well, now I got to figure out what ones fit in the hour because I don't want to like Chappelle it and just put out like a 3-hour super block of dad jokes, I'm like, I got to cut this down. And then maybe I'll save some of them for the next one, or sometimes there's just ones that you do live that you don't need to record.
I had a question on Good Grief. And
yeah,
so I'm sorry your brother died.
Thank you.
I was trying to listen for the versions that you didn't want to hear. People say things you don't know. I just wanted to prove I listened to it.
Yeah, that's...
I was listening to a lot of it, and it struck me that this would be really a good thing for people to listen to who lose someone really close or family member. Do you get that kind of feedback when people see this or discover it?
Yeah, like pretty consistently, like every couple weeks or months, I get a random email from somebody that found it and said that it was like really helpful. And I talk about it in the special. I'm like, because when I started touring the show after like live after shows, people would tell me that they thought it was really helpful because they lost somebody. And I'm like, that's great. That's not the goal though. Like I didn't set out to like help anybody, which I should have, but I'm a narcissist who just wants attention. And it was 100% just like for my own benefit, because when I started doing comedy again, I'm like, oh, I can't ignore this. I can't not talk about it. I mean, the reason most of my jokes are about stuff like my kids in Jurassic Park is because like I spend all of my time with my children and I really like watching, Jurassic Park and Star Wars and Buckaroo Banzai. So that's what I end up writing about. So when I was grieving my brother, it's like, well, I'm thinking about this all the time. I can't not talk about it. And I also couldn't stop myself from making jokes about it. I have had people tell me that I'm going to hell because I'm making fun of my brother for dying. And I'm like, I don't know that that's true.
I don't think you were making fun of your brother. I
don't think so. And like that wasn't the goal.
I know it's probably people are listening and it's out of context. I would almost say it was in respect to the situation. You know what I mean? It was nothing egregious or
right.
You didn't take advantage of that situation to make a joke. You were doing what we all would do in that situation, or especially comics, which is internalize the event that you had no control over and add context to it that hopefully others could understand and hear and relate to and make them feel better about things that happened in their lives as well.
Yeah. And that was the thing that I heard from people where like and not comics, just like normies were like, hey, when I was at my uncle's funeral, this hilarious thing happened. Or like I heard so many stories from people who were not comics about people making jokes after somebody died. And it's like, so it's not just me. Like that was the most like directly helpful part of it for me was hearing that from other people, because like I talk about in that special, the first thought I had when my mom told me my brother died was a joke. And I'm like, I don't like, that's not an exaggeration for the special. That's how it went down. My mom called, said your brother died. And my first thought was, we come from a big family. I have spares. And it's like, well, that shouldn't have been the thought, right? Like it should have been, oh no. And then maybe a couple hours later, a joke. But it was like, it's so immediate. And I felt bad, but I'm like, it's a good line. Like I wrote it down.
I think it's a defense. It's a defense mechanism.
No question.
It was a way for your brain to handle that moment. And as a comedian, that's how you handle it. And
it's how I handle. I mean, it's how I handle good emotions too, for the record. It's not just, the bad ones, but it is like, I think the line in the special is humor's a defense mechanism I've weaponized into a career, which is true. Because like there's a couple jokes about my daughter broke her arm during the pandemic. And I talk about it in the new special. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's scary. I was walking. I think I say I was there when it happened in the special. I was walking to my daughter's soccer practice where the playground was, but it's not worth explaining that in the joke. Right. So it's like, oh yeah, she fell off and then we went to the hospital. But like, it's scary when your wife calls to say that she thinks your kid broke your arm and you're a 15-minute walk away. And it's like, well, do I run there? Do I go back to the house and get the car? Like what? And it's like really stressful. And immediately it's like, yeah, what are the jokes about this? It's like, well, it's not helpful in the moment to tell people who aren't comics that you thought of a really funny thing about the tragedy you're all currently going through. But
as a matter of fact, I recommend against that.
Yeah.
You hold, you got to hold it.
I had to fly to Omaha the day after it happened. And I was on the fence. It was for a comedy festival, and I almost ended up not going because we were in the hospital for like a day and a half because it was during the pandemic. So like we were waiting forever to get a room. Everything was taking way longer than it should have. It wasn't like a quick trip to the hospital. We were there. We got moved from one hospital to another. We were there overnight. And then it's like, well, I think we ended up getting home like 2 a.m. the next day after she broke her arm. And then I was supposed to like get up and fly to Omaha in the morning. And like I went to bed when we got back. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going. Like my mother-in-law was coming over to like help. So I wasn't like just abandoning my wife with our 2 children and one of them now in a cast. So like help was around if anybody's listening and thinks I'm a monster. But I ended up going, and then the whole set that I was like doing at most of the shows was just about my daughter breaking her arm. And one of the comics is like, "Oh, when did she break her arm?" I'm like, 2 days ago. I said, and he's like, "Yeah, but I thought it was like comedy 2 days ago, where you say like, oh, this thing happened on the way to." I'm like, no, it was like, it was like, I think the festival started on Thursday, so I'm like, no, this was Tuesday night, and then I was spent all Wednesday in a hospital, and then I got on a plane, and I'm too tired to like talk about something else, so it's just going to be these jokes.
All right, let's talk about your impact on me and your greatest influence to you creatively, which is the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension.
I love it so much.
It's no secret you love this movie. I never saw this movie until recently. I did watch it because I knew we were going to talk. But your special, Glen Tickle, Against the World Crime League.
Yes.
Against the World Crime League is a reference to that movie as well. All right, so let's talk about the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Happily.
Do you want to set the table for everyone? Let them know what this 1984 classic is.
Sure. So this is my absolute favorite movie of all time. The title references the never made sequel to Buckaroo Banzai because it was a huge flop in 1984, but they really thought they had a franchise on their hands. So they did that thing movies sometimes do where in the credits it says, "Watch for Buckaroo Banzai's next adventure, Buckaroo Banzai Against the World Crime League." But the movie lost, I think, like $16 million. So they never made that movie. So when I was doing the special, when I was editing Good Grief and I was doing the credits, I thought, I'm like, oh, it'll be funny. I'll put in the special, watch for Glen Tickle's next adventure, Glen Tickle Against the World Crime League. And then when it came time to do and title another special, it's like, well, I don't have a better title. So I'll run with the bit. I'll just keep using it. But now that like I'm promoting it and I'm hearing other people say it and everyone messes it up, I'm like, I should have just called it any other title.
Stay strong, Glen Tickle. Stay strong.
I gotta just commit.
For the record, it was a budget of $17 million, of which $2 million of that is visible on screen, and a box office take of $6.3 million. You know, it's funny, when I was watching this, my memory of this movie was that it starred Adam Ant, which, by the way, Adam Ant is not in this movie. However, Peter Weller stated that his inspiration for his character was, among other people, Jacques Cousteau and Adam Ant.
Yeah, so he's included.
My memory of it being Adam Ant, because it's probably how he visually looked, completely wrong, but has some merit. So let's talk about this cast for a second. This is one of those.
This is the thing where when people tell me they haven't seen it and I start listing who's in it, they're like, how have I not seen this? This is the best 1984 had to offer.
Oh my God. This had Peter Weller, who everyone knows as RoboCop, John Lithgow, Jeff Goldblum, delivering a line that clearly they saw him delivering and they said, we need him in Jurassic Park. There's like a line right out of it where he's explaining the science in Buckaroo. Ellen Barkin, Christopher Lloyd. Who else we got?
Dan Hedaya.
We have Jonathan Banks, who most people would know right now as Mike from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, a very young Jonathan Banks. He's got hair and everything.
Oh, and then, the one guy from Clancy Brown from Shawshank, and he's actually in a
plays Rawhide, Lewis Smith.
Yeah.
Pepe Silva.
You are right on top. Lewis Smith looked very familiar, but I could not place him at all.
I had the same conversation with somebody the other day, and they're like, why does he look so familiar? He has to just look like someone else because he's not done like a ton of hugely notable things.
No, it was like The Heavenly Kid, and I was just like, no, that wouldn't be it, because I don't think I've seen that either.
No, he doesn't have a twin brother. He doesn't have a twin services, brother. But I watched it, and it's a weird one. So he dies in like a car race, and then comes back to Earth as an angel decades later to like help. I think it ends up being his son. There's a kid in high school who's like getting bullied, and he has to like help this kid, and then you find out that it's his kid. I think it's not a good one.
Oh, that's a twist.
But Lewis Smith plays Perfect Tommy in Buckaroo Banzai. He's tremendous.
He is tremendous. So this Peter Weller is Buckaroo Banzai, I didn't know this word before. He's a polymath. That means he's excellent in many different things. He's a physicist, a neurosurgeon, a test pilot, and a rock star.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I read that Tom Hanks and Michael Keaton were considered for the role, of which of those two I really could only see Michael Keaton pulling that off. I can't see a.
Yeah, I know they did really want Hanks, and I don't know how far it went beyond them being like, he'd be great at this. Like, I don't know if there was ever like a screen test or anything. The movie also has, oh God, I'm blanking on her name.
Ellen Barkin.
Yeah, but that's not who I mean. She's cut from the movie.
Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis is Buckaroo's mom in a flashback scene that got cut. And the movie flopped. And I do think it would have done a lot better if they hadn't cut that scene. So it was the original opening for the movie was old. They explain it as like archival footage from the Bonsai Institute. And it's like a young Buckaroo, his parents, Dr. Hakita, who we see as like an old man for most of the movie, are working on an experiment, and then it goes wrong and the car blows up and his parents are killed, Batman style. But it's a reference to the World Crime League and Hanoi Shan, like the leader of it, who he's responsible for Buckaroo's parents' death. But he's like the villain of the movie who got cut out entirely. Like he helps Lizardo break out of the mental institution to go get the oscillation overthruster. These words mean nothing if you haven't seen the movie. Yeah, but they started because of Jedi the year before. They're like, oh, sci-fi movie, we need an opening crawl, buddy. So lose this flashback scene and just give us yellow words on a black background. And that's what they did, but it doesn't do a very good job of setting up anything. I watched this movie for the first time like 5 years ago, and it took like a good 20 minutes before I figured out who on screen was Buckaroo Banzai. I genuinely thought it was Jeff Goldblum before I'd seen the movie. I just, for whatever reason, I knew he was in it. I thought he played the character Buckaroo Banzai, probably because he's dressed in a ridiculous cowboy outfit for half the movie. But I'm like, I don't understand. He's got like a weird surgery mask on for the first part of it. And then he's got a helmet on because he's going in the jet car. You don't see his actual face for like the first 15 minutes. And everyone's just talking about this character, Buckaroo Banzai. There's a bunch of people on screen. It's a little hard to follow what's happening. But it starts after the opening crawl of he drives a jet car through a mountain by traveling through the eighth dimension. And that's the experiment that his parents were trying to do when they got killed. And then later, we also see that is the experiment that John Lithgow was trying to do with Professor Hakita when he partially crosses into the eighth dimension, gets possessed by the alien leader, John Warfarin. And then when they pull him out of the dimension, his hair is a different color and he's just yelling. But they don't explain that there's no scene that explains the possession of it all. It's just he goes halfway through a wall, pull him out. He looks different and he's yelling now. And it's a hard movie to describe and assure people that you do genuinely love it, because it is kind of a mess, I'll admit.
I started watching it and I'm like, what the is Glen Tickle recommending here? And so I kept watching it. It's an hour and 42 minutes, this movie. So it's not a very long movie.
It's doable.
Tell me if you think this is a fair description. The reason probably it is cult classic and people endear to it, it looks and feels and plays like a movie that your best pals who were into movie making made in their basement and backyard and just put it on film. And
that's fair. Yeah, I think that fits.
Yeah.
Because they did, Earl MacRouch, the guy who wrote Buckaroo Banzai, did put out the sequel Against the World Crime League as a novel, and I think it came out in 2021. And that feels like your buddies from 8th grade all just like exquisite corpsed out a novel with every reference to like whatever 8th grade boys with like a slight interest in conspiracies and the occult would want to put in a book. It also feels like he's just been writing it since 1984 because it's very long, and it was a tough one to get through. I don't love it as much as I love the movie. It's getting re-released in paperback soon if anybody wants to pick up a copy. There's also a 24-hour long audiobook version.
Oh, I think there's a rush. I think everyone just stopped listening to us. So say anything you want to say. I think they just went
There's a dense tone.
They just went to get the book. Have you seen the special edition DVD, which contains 14 deleted scenes and an extended introduction?
Yeah, the extended introduction is that flashback scene.
Okay. And 14.
It also has one of my favorite DVD features, I think, of all time. And I only love it in the context of this movie. It would drive me nuts for any other type of media. But it is like a pop-up video style DVD commentary, but in character from the character Pinky Carruthers for some reason, barely in the movie, played by Billy Vera of Billy and the Beaters. But it is all just like he's chiming in with additional story facts in like little pop-ups on the screen. And I'm like, it would drive me nuts if I was trying to watch any other movie and that happened. I'm debating whether I want to do that for the comedy special, like go through and put
pop-up video is the greatest
things.
thing.
It's great for 3 minutes when it's about a song that you've heard 100 times, but when you're like trying to follow a story and just every 30 seconds there's a new paragraph on screen about what in the world of the movie. It's not like trivia facts. It is just like, oh, that character 6 months ago did this on this other adventure. And it's like, none of that happened. This is all pretend. W.D. Richter, the guy who wrote it, or directed it, he wrote Big Trouble in Little China, has, since promoting the movie originally, been talking about it as a docudrama. He insists Buckaroo is a real person, that they got permission to do the movie. And I've never seen an interview or anything with him where he breaks that bit. And it's one of those things where it's like, they talk about the producer, Sidney Beckerman, was like really just riding them the whole production. Like they credit all the problems with the movie to him. And it's like, some of it might have been you guys. Like you seem kind of weird, honestly. Like I love your movie, but it seems like you're maybe a little difficult to work with. I think you got to take some responsibility for some of the problems with your movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with it. But like you said, if you take it for what it is and kind of keep it under...
The thing that I love about it is that it feels like the third or fourth movie in a series. Because when I was watching it the first time, it's like, oh, there must be like 10 of these. Because I don't know. They're all talking about these characters and events like we all know what happened. It's like just watching Return of the Jedi first, where you're like, I get that there's stuff going on before this, but like you can follow the story, but there's no other material until the sequel book came out. They wrote a ton of scripts and stories about Buckaroo Banzai before they made the movie, and then they just kind of picked one from the middle. It's not an origin story except for that flashback scene that got cut. And it's like all the characters are well established. They've been around, a while. It's not how the team got formed or whatever. It is just a kind of middle of the road adventure for this guy. The thing that made me love it is it's the line that everybody knows who knows anything about this movie is no matter where you go, there you are, which is delivered shortly after my actual favorite line in the movie, which is, don't be mean, you don't have to be mean. And it's because the Hong Kong Cavaliers, Buckaroo's band, are playing a show and he shuts it down because someone in the audience is not having a good time. So they're up there wailing away. And then he just literally like puts his mini trumpet down and says, hey, stop. Is someone out there not having a good time? And as a comedian, I don't think I've ever related to anything harder than seeing someone like, because like if you're at a show and everyone's into your stuff, but there's one person just like arms folded in the front, that's who you're going to pay attention to. And it's like, well, yeah, why aren't you having a good time? Like, that's what I've never stopped a show to figure it out unless they're being disruptive. But it's like, I want to know, like, I want to stop telling jokes and get to the bottom of this. Like, what is it about this that you're not enjoying? Is it because I'm talking too much about a movie from 1984 you probably haven't seen? Is that the part that you're not relating to? That's usually what it is. When I just don't like, they're like, we haven't seen Alf. We don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if they haven't seen Alf, that's on them. Very cool. All right, so we got a lot of homework for those of you out there. You got to go watch The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension, and of course, you need to head over to YouTube. Is it a free watch, Glenn, or do we pay? Okay.
Yeah.
And watch Glen Tickle Against the World Crime League on YouTube. Also, you can watch Glenn's other specials, Dry Bar and Good Grief.
Yeah. Good Grief, I think, is up on, that's on YouTube too.
I think they're all there. So you can get, there's so much.
If it's not, I'll put it up tonight.
So much Glen Tickle in your life. Watch the Dry Bar special. He does 20 minutes on his last name, which is amazing. And so that's all the incentive you need, I think. Glenn, where are your socials and all that? Where can people keep
it's
up
just
with
at
you?
Glen Tickle, one N in Glen, and Tickle just the way the word is spelled. You can follow me on TikTok, and you can join the millions of people who've watched a dumb video about me potty training my daughter by giving her stickers. I still can't believe how many people have seen that. It's unsettling.
Amazing. All right. Everyone knows who you are then, clearly, from all these videos. So it's all good. So thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. It was a delight.
A delight indeed. How amazing was comedian Glen Tickle? Y'all have a lot of homework in front of you. Get a little tickle in your life. Glen Tickle. His comedy specials are all linked in the show notes. You can also Google up or go to glentickle.com. And also check out The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai if you haven't enjoyed that classic in a while. Can't believe it. The interview's over. That means we have come to the end of yet another episode. Episode 282 has flown by. One more huge thank you to my special guest, Glen Tickle. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you for coming back week after week. It means the world to me. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Classic Conversations. If you like what you heard, don't be shy and give us a follow on your favorite podcast app. Also, why not go ahead and tell all your friends about the show? You strike us as the kind of person that people listen to. Thanks in advance for spreading the word, and we'll catch you next time on Classic Conversations.